content is king. I don't believe that you can produce too much content because there's all these filters and things like that. And if you put enough out there, more people will see it. Welcome to the Matt Laricy Project. This is a show about all things real estate, business, marketing, and entrepreneurship. Each show consists of myself, Matt Laricy, a member of my team, and a guest. This week, we are doing a coronavirus situational update. We're at Season 2, Episode 21, COVID-19, Week 2 update. Last week, we did a special edition podcast to discuss the COVID virus. And we are still in a shelter in place in Chicago. Currently, the date today is March 26th. So the situation is changing hourly. So if you listen to this weeks later and you're like, you're crazy because of XYZ, we can't predict the future or what's going to happen. But we are going to talk about what's happening with the coronavirus today in the Chicago real estate market and where we think it's going to impact the real estate market in the future. What we did is, over the past week, we've just been collecting questions. A lot of clients have been asking us. We've asked social media for some questions. People have just randomly emailed us or called us, asking us our opinion. Newspapers have called us. So what we did is we took all the questions that have been coming our way and all the main topics people have asked us, and we put it in a format that I'm just going to kind of start knocking off the questions. And the first one we have is... how is the market being affected by the coronavirus? COVID-19 has pretty much made the market come to a stall. The main thing most people are using is I'm on pause. People are pausing their searches. A lot of buyers are nervous to leave their house. A lot of buyers are, they just want to go out. Some sellers don't want to show their properties. We are still showing things. We were normally getting with our buyer tours, about 60 showings on a weekday. We are down to about 2 to 4 a day now. So it's a dramatic difference. And people are asking us, can we still work? And why are we working? I mean, Section 12, Article R states that real estate activities are still allowed. So we're still allowed to show properties. We are taking precautions. We're going to get to that. So we're able to, come in the office still every day and work. Somebody asked me how showings are going. We just answered that. How does this compare to a normal spring? As I indicated, we're literally down like 95%. Luckily we had a lot of business before that, but business overall is new business coming in would be down 95% compared to year over year with spring. Somebody asked, are deals dying? And if so, why? We have lost roughly about 10% of our transactions. And the reason is again, people are pausing. Some people are very nervous, so they're using any out they can get. There's a lot of ways you could get out of a real estate transaction, and that's why I always say that it's great to be a buyer, but it sucks to be a seller. Because as a buyer, you could you walk on water. You could cancel a deal for whatever the hell you want, and the sellers really can't really sue you for that money, so they're not really they're kind of SOL. So the deals that we have lost, we haven't lost any of our buyer ones, but we have lost ones on the sell side, and it's just because, people got nervous. And that's brings me to a point is that I don't feel like people are fighting for the transactions. I think real estate agents have a responsibility to educate people on the market. We understand that people are nervous right now, but people are just laying down. There's a lot of fear out there. There's a lot of people that are uneasy, and I completely understand why, but I still think we need to fight and continue to work. We can't just lay down and let this virus kind of take over our lives. Somebody asked me, where do I see the market going? And is this comparable to 2008? That's a huge one that I get asked all the time. Like, well, we're heading into an 2008 situation. I think the big problem with real estate is people just aren't educated. I'm actually very annoyed when people tell me that we're in an 2008 type of market. In 2008, the housing market was overinflated. They had subprime mortgages. And then the bubble burst because of, just prices were crazy. It was overinflation, made up appraisals, things of that nature. And the bubble burst and the housing market collapsed. And that caused the recession. It wasn't the recession hit and the housing market collapsed. It was that the housing market was too hot and collapsed. And that caused the recession. So for all the people out there who thought they got the real estate license in 2014 and now seems like terrible and things were in 2008 and is uneducated in the market, what you have to realize is that in 2008, 9, and 10, you could look down the street and every single piece of real estate that you could see with your eye, 75% of that was on the market. Okay. So at that time, every property out there would be on the market, or I'll tell you right now, that seller would be willing to sell, and nobody could buy because A, they couldn't afford it, or B, they couldn't get a loan because lenders pretty much made it impossible to sell or impossible to get a loan. So let's compare it today. Today, there's almost no inventory on the market. People who want to get a loan can get one easily, and the house market hasn't collapsed and it wasn't overinflated. We're into a recession. We're going to probably be in a recession for the next few months. I mean, I don't know. I can't predict the stock market, but I can tell you what's happening in housing is we are not in an '08 territory. We're not even close to an '08 territory. There's not a million things on the market. People could still get loans if they want one. Rates are really low and inventory is low. So how are prices going to drop if demand is up? I don't understand that. I don't know why people keep making that comparison. I think people need to educate themselves in the market and past recession trends and kind of look at what's happened in the past with real estate during recessions. Is it going to be worse than 2008? We just answered that. What should an agent do if they're slow? So realtors out there that are listening, if you're slow, you should be prospecting. You should be working your sphere, working your past sales, putting out content. You should be preparing for when you're going to get really busy again. Just because you can't, leave the house or there's not a lot of people looking at homes, there's still other things you could do. You can educate yourself. In 2008, when I started to bring the company downtown, what I did is I said that, maybe I can't get rich in money, but I could get rich in knowledge. So when the market turned, I could know everything. Well, there's so many agents out there that are uneducated and they came into the business at a high and they had a good network, so they made a lot of money. But now when the market gets bad, those are the first people out because people want to work with an expert. And if you don't know what you're talking about, you're never going to succeed. So the main thing you could do right now, educate yourself more on the market and past trends. How am I handling the shift of being slower? Believe it or not, I will tell you that obviously my showings are as low as they can be, but I've never been busier answering emails and phone calls. Most of my phone calls take up 80% of my day are either settling people down, people calling me, asking me my opinion on the market, that whether it be agents, newspapers, past clients, current clients, stuff like that. And it's just, people are at home. So we're getting lots of emails. So I'm actually in the office pretty much at the same time, a little bit later than normal, and leaving at the same time. I'm just not out in the field as much. So I wouldn't necessarily say we're super slow. We're just not as busy in the field. Are you guys still working? As I mentioned earlier, realtors are still allowed to work. We understand that it's frowned upon, but we are allowed to work, so we are taking advantage of it. We are taking precautions to make sure that we're not somebody that's going to help spread the virus or anything like that. But we are still working. How are we handling meeting people? So we are not really meeting anybody new that we don't know. We're doing things over the phone. So we've been doing a lot of virtual meetings and a lot of phone meetings. Most of my day is booked. Mine is handling the deals, is, talking to people with new business. So any new meeting is going to be done over the phone to help eliminate the spread of COVID. What precautions are you doing for sellers? So, showing listings is a big thing. People are getting nervous to show their property with this going on. As we've stated, we're still allowed to work. We are pre-screening the buyer's agents. So we're talking to the agent, seeing how serious their buyer is, making sure we get a pre-qualification letter before showing. We're making sure that we don't have more than 3 people in the property. We are making sure that all the doors, closets, and everything like that are opened before we go into the unit. That way nobody has to even touch anything. We're making sure that people don't touch anything. We're asking them if they've traveled anywhere at all, whether it be New York, Europe, Asia, anywhere. And if any one of those doesn't sound right, we're not going to show it. Otherwise, we are going to continue to show with all those precautions. Otherwise, that's about as much as we can do to try to help prevent it. What if your seller doesn't want to show their property? We do have some sellers that don't want to show their properties, and there's nothing we can do about it. It is the seller's choice. This is a very weird situation. Some people just aren't going to feel comfortable with it, so we can't force them to do it. We are encouraging sellers to stay on the market because web traffic is through the roof, and we are getting a lot of calls on listings. We're just not getting as many people to go look at them. Are the layoffs going to affect sales in the long term? I think yes and no. In the markets we work in, we're blessed to work in a really big city, and big layoffs aren't going to affect businesses such as ours as much because there's still going to be a huge population that are working, and there's not as many entry level jobs that will get laid off that will have a long-term effect of us not being able to get business. I think small rural areas or, like some suburb areas are going to get crushed by it probably for a short term. But I think these are all short-term things. You have to remember, our economy is based off spending. So if people aren't spending money, they're going to have to lay off the people because they're not making as much money as a business. Once the people leave their houses again and people start spending money, a lot of those jobs will come back. Now, don't get me wrong. There's going to be a lot of people who aren't going to get their jobs back. There's going to get a lot of restaurants and bars closed, a lot of retail, mom and pop shops are going to close. We understand it. It's terrible. My heart goes out to them. We're a small business too. We're a mom and pop business. I work for AmeriCorp, okay? We don't have anybody to write the checks. The only one we have is myself. So it's either myself is going to work to be able to get the checks and be able to pay my people, or I'm going to lay people off. So I'm right in the, on the front lines with everybody out there. So I feel your pain. Unfortunately though, some businesses are going to be affected by this. Are you still taking new client meetings? We've got to that. How are you doing new client presentations? Like I said, over the phone, one of the good things that we have twofold with presentations is that I've always built myself to live in the virtual world. I've been telling people forever that we live in a virtual world. I say that a million times, that we live in a virtual world. I've always been prepared. I've hated paper since day one. I've never understood why people go to listing presentations with these big books and leave them there. Because you know what I do whenever I go on a listing appointment? I take my coffee, because I'm constantly drinking coffee and Starbucks is closed, so I don't have one today. But I take my coffee and I put it down on their listing presentation book. We email our sellers and buyers presentations before we even meet with the people. So now I'm emailing these presentations ahead of time. They know everything about me. They have all of our stuff that we have in front of them. And then I call them up and we arrange a call, whether they want a video or a phone call, and we go over it. What else we do for our listings, again, we live in a virtual world. I can't say that enough. We've been prepared. We have online presentations for our listings. 4+ years ago, I've made the investment that every single listing we get, no matter what the price point is, we do a virtual tour of the property and we do a video tour of the property. Let me repeat that. We do a virtual and a video. So this whole COVID situation and people talking about virtual tours, I'm like, who gives a shit? We have one already. We don't have to meet or FaceTime anybody there because we already have it. We prepared for stuff like this. Then we send a presentation of your property to the potential purchaser or agent that wants to send it to their person. In that has the neighborhood tour, the video of the property, the virtual reality of the property, the MLS property sheet, and an upgrade list and a floor plan. Everything anybody could ever want is right there. We are still selling one property every day of the week, and most of it's done virtually. I know it sounds crazy. I know that sounds great, comparatively speaking, to what we normally sell in a March. It's terrible, but it's a way to keep our lights on, and we're able to still get ahead. Are you seeing a change in lead volume? Yes. We spend a stupid amount of money every month on online lead generation platforms, whether it be Zillow, Google, SEO placements. We have somebody that just manages their social media. There's a lot of cost that goes out. I would literally say that we would normally get, on average, about 20 leads a day. And I get it if you listen to this, be like, Matt gets 20 leads a day? That's crazy. Like, okay, out of the 20 leads a day, 15 of them are complete bullshit that mean nothing, okay? So 5 are like pretty quality leads that could turn into something, okay? So let's repeat that. We're not saying that we get 20 phenomenal leads that are closings every day of the week. We're just saying that we get 20 random stuff that comes in. 15 of them are shit. 5 are pretty good. We're now getting about 2 leads a day, okay? And 1 is complete shit and 1 could be something. And, so of course the online stuff has gone down with the leads. I got to be honest, I'm kind of scratching my head because I would think we would get more since people are sitting at home. But Zillow's traffic is like, they just released something. Now, again, this is March 26th. This could change. But as of the email I saw, their traffic's down 50%. And in return, Zillow has given us half off our month to help compensate for the lack of traffic and it being a tough time. So, yes, we're seeing less online leads. I think given the situation, maybe some people just aren't looking to buy housing. I'm not sure. But we do notice that our listing traffic is way up. So I'm not really sure why it doesn't compute with the lead generation, but it is what it is. How are partners handling the changes? So I'm assuming this means like our lenders and lawyers and things of that nature. I mean, our lawyers are slammed. I think there's a lot of legal questions going out there. I mean, we have almost 100 deals pending at any given time. So like, there's a lot of stuff being flown around. So like our lawyers are slammed, and honestly, lenders are super slammed. I mean, rates are really low, so a lot of people are refinancing. I mean, the rates went up this week. They're much higher than they were before, but they're still pumping away stuff. I think new business for new mortgages is probably down for most lenders, but refis are doing pretty well. They were down about 33% from week over week, but they're still getting. I think the week before that was a crazy high. So I think they're still doing pretty well on being busy. I would say inspectors, their business is very, very, it's way in the gutter, just like ours. How are closings taking place? How are closings going with the shelter-in-place law being out here? Title companies, movers, we're all still considered to be essential businesses. Believe it or not, they're starting to do some e-closings. This could be a great thing. I thought going to a close was really stupid as it was, so maybe that'll catch on for the future, and we'll always do e-closings. But there's only a few people doing e-closings. Essentially, the title companies are only allowing the buyer and the buyer's agent there, and if there's more than one buyer, they're asking them to be in separate rooms. There are some companies doing curbside closings too, where you pull up in your car and you sit out there and sign. I've never heard of that before, but these are different times, so there are crazy stuff. But closings are still taking place. Do title companies and attorneys count as essential businesses? We answer that. Yes, it is. How are people handling moves during shelter in place? Are those still happening? Moves are still happening. As I mentioned, movers are still considered essential businesses. There are some buildings that are not allowing moves. So we've had some hiccups there. We've had to maneuver some things. We haven't had any huge issues with it yet. Again, this is March 26th. I don't know if Lightfoot decides to shut down movers tomorrow, but for the time being, we've been able to manage and get that done pretty well. What's the biggest problem your experiences related to the shelter in place? Showings. Our biggest problem is showings. In order for us to keep our lights on, we have to show properties in order to sell properties, to make money, to be in business. That's just the honest reality. March and April are Realtors' two best months of the year, and those are going to be taken away from us. Now, we've built a very successful business, so it's not like a boohoo for us. And I mean, let me face it, it's going to crush our yearly impact of what we thought we would bring in. We still have very real bills that we have to pay. We have very real salaries, so it's detrimental. What I feel terrible for is agents that don't have a lot of business. A lot of people don't save. Let's face it, people are not savers. Those people are going to get wiped out. They're going to have to find new businesses. And the shelter in place is literally going to put, I'm predicting, and you can remember I said this, but I'm predicting 25% of realtors and lenders will be out of business in 60 days. 25%. It's a huge number. But the average realtor sells less than like a property a month. So if you're going to go 60 days and 60 of the best days of the year without a sale, it's going to be tough for you to kind of keep your lights on. And that kind of brings me to talking about like predictions too. And this is off topic of what I have, but I told people a long time ago, iBuying. And if you ever listen to any of these podcasts, everybody's told me about one of the big questions some of these tech guys go, well, how's iBuying going to disrupt real estate? I told everybody who would listen to me, I said, iBuying is a phenomenal platform when the market is great. But what are you going to do when the economy drops? Because nobody's going to buy homes and sit on homes if you don't have an all-time high economy. Well, guess what? All the iBuying platforms have been suspended. So I'm not trying to say I told you so, but real estate is very predictable if you're on the front lines and you do your due diligence and pay attention to the market. The trends are predictable. You just have to pay attention. No, I'm not saying I predicted COVID. I just said that at some point we won't be at a high. And what happens when you're not at a high? Things like iBuying goes away. These big tech real estate companies that haven't turned a profit since they've started, what are they going to do when they go back to the investors and now their investors are broke? You can't operate minus money. Businesses don't work like that. So people out there have to pay attention. Realtors have to be out there paying attention. Buyers, sellers, you have to be out there paying attention that Businesses need to make money to stay open. And a lot of these fads that come around that people tell me about that are going to be the greatest big thing, do some research before you talk about it. Have I noticed Facebook censoring COVID content? I honestly have no idea. We have a social media expert that does a lot of our stuff. Is there stuff out there that should be seen that's not being seen? I'm sure there is. I do like to believe in a good conspiracy theory if you got one. So I could buy it if that's what you're trying to sell me here in the question. Whether it's happening or not, I have no clue. What is the general feeling you're sensing from other realtors? Depression and fear and negativity. I've never met a group of people who cannot rise to the top and be more confident in themselves during a downside. I'm almost mad, and you could probably sense in my voice because people are so freaking negative. And every person I talk to, literally, there's two types of people I've talked to right now. I would literally put it in half. 50% are one way, 50% are the other way. 50% of people I talk to tell me America's not going to exist anymore. We're going to sprawl into the dark ages. People are going to be killing and eating each other in the streets. That's half the people I talk to. Literally, they think we're going to walk in the streets and start eating each other and killing each other. The other 50% think this whole thing's a hoax. Now, I'm not saying it's that way, and I'm not saying it's the other way, but we're probably somewhere in between. And it's just, well, not in between eating people. That's bad. But my point is that it's not as bad as it's going to be at the end. I'm not saying this isn't a very terrible virus. I'm not saying that I don't feel terrible and very grateful for all our doctors and nurses out there. I'm just saying that, like, we all don't have to walk around with the cloud overhead that's raining, telling everybody that you talk to that it's the worst thing ever and we're all going to die and oh my God, blah, 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 because negativity is contagious. If everybody walked around and said, hey, we're going to get through this, like this is, this sucks. This is shitty for every single person out there. It's just a situation. It's a card we're dealt. We're going to deal with it. We're going to get through it, and everything's going to be fine afterwards. If we all had that attitude, the world would be a better place. The news isn't sitting there telling you about how all these doctors and nurses are working 20 hours a day, not seeing their families. They're not talking about all the people who are out there helping each other out. All they're talking about is how we're all going to die. Think about that. And I think it's their right to try to tell some people some of the positivity out there, and we're trying to spread that. That's what we're here trying to do, is help trying to spread some more positivity of what's out there. What do you think the plan is for moving forward under real estate and shelter in place? I mean, there is no plan. Let's be frank. There is no plan. I mean, we're going to try to make the best of the situation, as I just mentioned. We're going to try to continue to get sales. If we could do one sale a day, I'll be very, very happy. If we could stop losing some deals, I'll be even happier. But the plan is that we're prepared for this. We have everything is online. Everything can be seen. If this lasts for 3 months plus, we'll be okay. We'll make it through it. Some businesses won't, but we're just going to have to continue to adapt. And every day we're learning something new during COVID of how to make our businesses be more efficient. So if this is 3 months from now and we're still in this situation, I'm sure I'll be doing other podcasts telling you what we're doing to try to compensate for the losses in business and revenue that we're having now. But we got to keep moving forward. That's all we could do. Are you making any major changes in your business for a much longer than expected? I mean, just as I just said, right now we're trying to deal with the situation. We're on our second week of shelter in place. I think we're doing very well given the situation and the circumstances, but we have to continue to move forward. And I will tell you one thing that I am doing, and I think this is important for everybody out there, is I'm not changing my routine, okay? I will admit, I'm not going to bullshit you. I'm sleeping in probably an extra 30 minutes than I normally do, but I'm still waking up. I'm still working out. I'm still, getting to the office. You look at my calendar today, there is almost nothing on it that is out in the field. Actually, there is nothing on it out in the field. It's all phone calls. I could do it at home in my underwear. But I'm coming to the office every day, putting my suit and tie on even though I'm not seeing anybody, because I don't want to break my routine. Routine is the most powerful thing you can have, and it's very easy to get out of it. And 2 weeks from now, maybe you're not as motivated as you were before. I think it's important for everybody out there to consider continue to do the routine that they did, because you'll be a better person 2 weeks from now, and you're going to set yourself up for success later. That's it. Those are all our questions. So like I said, it's March 26th. We're looking at about a 12:25-ish p.m. So at 5 o'clock, something drastic changes, and this comes out, and you're like, oh, my God, Matt, you're an idiot. I can't predict it. We're going to deal with the situation as it comes in. We're going to make this a weekly COVID podcast until this is over, so we could try to help you guys figure out what's happening in the real estate market here in Chicago. If you guys want to have any questions for next week, leave some comments. Find me on Instagram at mlaricy or on Facebook at mlaricy. Shoot me an email. We'll put our email across the bottom. Thanks for listening to the Matt Laricy Project. Make sure to subscribe to our podcast, follow us on Instagram, and like us on Facebook.